In this step, we're going to learn the natural note names first, for instance, A, D, C, etc. Then, to remember the flats and sharps, it's real easy. So when you flat a note on the guitar, you lower the note by 1 fret, which means you move down towards the pegs, the tuning pegs. And then for sharps, the opposite is true. You move up in the direction of the body 1 fret. So for example, A on the 6th string, 5th fret, moving up 1 fret gives you A sharp. Now, if you find B on the 6th string, 7th fret, moving down 1 fret will give you B flat. So in musical terms, a note that sounds the same and has two different names is called enharmonic notation. So now let's learn the notes along the 6th string. So I'm going to put my mouse on the open 6th string, which is E. Going over to the 1st fret, we have F. 2 frets up, we have G. 2 frets up, we have A. 2 frets up, we have B. 1 fret, now watch out for this one. 1 fret away is C. 2 frets up is D. And then 2 frets up is E. Alright, next, memorize the following pattern. This is an octave pattern. Now, if you know the note name on the 6th string, then you'll also know the note names on the 4th and 1st strings as well, because they're octaves and they have the same note name. So for example, if you know the note on the 6th string 1st fret, which is F, and then the other notes are also F on the 4th string and on the 1st string. So for instance, if that note there is F, this note on the 4th string is also an F, and the 1st string, it's also an F. So what that helps you, that will help you memorize the notes along with all the notes from the 6th string, 4th string, 1st string. Here's the next step now. What we're going to do now is we're going to learn the note names along the 5th string, or the open A string, along the guitar neck. So I'm going to start, there's your open A string, in other words, that just your 5th string open. Okay. Now we've got to go up 2 frets to B. Now 1 fret, remember between E and F and B and C there's always only 1 fret. So the next one, 3rd fret, is C. 2 frets up is D. 2 frets up is E. 1 fret away is our F. 2 frets up is G. And then on a 12th fret you have A. Okay, so, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the sharps and flats. Now, once you learn the natural note names, okay, so like between B, C, now you're going to learn the enharmonic note. I mentioned that earlier. The enharmonic note is the one in between those 2 frets. For instance, if you slide over 1 fret, you got C sharp or D flat. In other words, if I'm starting from C and I raise C up, I have C sharp. However, if I start from D and I lower D to D flat, then that's an enharmonic note. In other words, that's the note that sounds the same but has two different names. Okay, here's another example. Let's go up from here, D, to D sharp or E flat. In other words, I raised D to D sharp. Now I'm going to lower E to flat E, so that becomes E flat. Okay, so that's how you can learn. Once you learn the natural notes, you're able to find the sharps and flats depending on which way you want to go. Whether you want to go up or sharp or down and flat. Okay, now the next step in this series, this is step number 4. In this step, we're going to memorize the following pattern. Now it contains an octave and a unison. So this pattern now, what you got is from this note here on the fifth string to this note here is an octave. And then you got to kind of make a big stretch here. If you could, this is a little more difficult of a pattern. You've got to be able to remember that this, and between, well, okay, in between these two notes right here are unison. In other words, they're the same note. Okay, that if that's C, this is also C, and this is also C as well. So you have, so if you know this pattern, you're able to know all the note names on the fifth, third, and second string, which covers all the rest of the strings that we haven't covered yet. So we have C, C, C. Same pattern. Now I usually finger this. Now remember, this is not a chord. It is just a pattern. In other words, it's just a way of identifying notes. So you have a specific pattern when you're dealing with the notes on the fifth string. And then you have that other pattern I mentioned when you're dealing with notes on the sixth, fourth, and first strings. So this pattern, remember now, is the same. I usually finger this pattern by using my second finger for this note and remembering that I'm covering the fifth, third, and second strings, okay, on this pattern. So then I use my fourth finger for this particular note, and then I use my first finger for the note on the second string, remembering now that there's an empty fret in between all the notes. Remember, there's an empty fret and an empty fret. You got to use your ear a little bit. Use your ear you'll find this note, then your ear will find the octave, and then your ear will tell you that you got a unison note. Okay? And that should take care of all the note names on all the strings, on all the frets, anywhere on the guitar. Very handy thing to know.